This is section 3.5 and 3.6, where we're writing and solving ratios and proportions using cross products. Okay, for vocabulary, first you have a ratio, which you might remember is just a comparison of two quantities that uses division. So there's three different ways we could write it. We could either say 3 to 4, for example, or 3:4, or 3/4, like a fraction. And all of those mean the ratio of 3 to 4. Then we have a proportion, which is just an equation that states that two ratios are equivalent. So, for example, we might have something like 3 to 4 is equal to 6 to 8. Or we might have something like 3 to 4 is equal to some number to 8. So when we do have variables, that's where the cross product comes in. So that's just the product of the numerator of one ratio and the denominator of the other ratio. So some of you learned it as the butterfly rule. So remember, that just tells us where to multiply. The cross product's property is what tells us that the cross products of the proportions are equal. Our procedure for solving proportions is very similar to everything we've done so far. The only difference is the first thing you have to do is cross multiply. Then, same as usual, you're going to distribute, combine like terms, get all variables on one side, add or subtract, and then multiply or divide. So, let's do an example. We have the ratio of 8 to x is equal to the ratio of 6 to 15. So, do the butterfly rule if that helps you. 8 times 15 is equal to 6 times x. Well, 8 times 15 is 120, equal to 6x. And now it looks like an equation we know how to solve. So, divide both sides by 6. 120 divided by 6 is 20, so that has to be x. And again, we can always check our work. There's two different ways you could do it. You could plug it into the original proportion and see if that works, or you could also plug it into this equation here to see if it works. So I'm going to do both. If I have 8 over 20 equal to 6 over 15, well, those are both fractions that can be reduced. 8 and 20, 4 goes into both of those. So 4 goes into 8 twice. 4 goes into 20 5 times. And 6 and 15 have 3 in common. So 3 goes into 6 twice, and 3 goes into 15 5 times. So because those ratios are equal, we know we found the correct answer. Or if you want to plug it into the equation, that should work too. So 8 times 15 is 120, and 6 times 20 is 120. Okay, so in this one, before we can solve the proportion, we have to set it up. So it says, each day the seals at an aquarium are each fed 8 pounds of food for every 100 pounds of their body weight. One seal at the aquarium weighs 280 pounds. So how much food should the seal be fed per day? So there's actually two different ways you could set this up. I'm just going to show you one. I'm going to do 8 pounds of food per 100 pounds of body weight has to be equal to some amount of food for the 280 pound seal. So now that I have it set up, I'm going to do the same thing to solve. 8 times 280 is equal to 100x. Well, 8 times 280 gives me 2,240. And now to solve for x, I just divide by 100. and the 280-pound seal has to get 22.4 pounds of food. And again, I could check that. And my ratios should match up, and also my equation should match up. Another example for you, this is where being very careful about distributing comes in. So, first we have 7x on the left has to be equal to 3 times the quantity, 2x plus 5. That is the most important part there, is that you remember that 3 has to be multiplied by everything on top of that ratio. So 3 times 2x is 6x, and 3 times a positive 5 is plus 15. And now I follow my normal procedure. 7x minus 6x is just x, so x has to equal 15. And again, to check it, I could either check this or this. 15 times 2 is going to be 30. So 30 plus 5 on top of that over 15. So you have 35 over 15. Well, that can be reduced, right? They both have 5 in common, so 5 goes into 35 7 times, and 5 goes into 15 3 times. And our last example, again, we have to be very careful about distributing. So 24 times the quantity, z minus 1, has to be equal to 4 times the quantity, 5z plus 4. So 24 times z is just 24z. 24 times minus 1 becomes minus 24. 4 times 5z is 20z, and 4 times 4 is 16. So if I subtract 20z from both sides and add 24 to both sides, I end up with 4z on the left has to be equal to 40. 16 plus 24 equals 40. And now to solve for z, divide both sides by 4, and z has to equal 10. And again, I could plug it in to check in the ratio or the equation. So 5 times z, 5 times 10 is 50. 50 plus 4, 54, so we end up with 24 over 54 equal to 4 over, well, 10 minus 1 is 9. 24 and 54 have 6 in common. 24 divided by 4 is 6. 54 divided by 6 is, 24 divided by 6 is 4, and 54 divided by 6 is 9. And that's it.